Dragon Ball Fighters, a game which is determined in a lot of ways by one simple thing, that is assists. Now, assists have changed drastically over the course of this game's life, in some ways in a very positive way, in some very negative ways. And so I wanted to make this video, the second of my training mode talks, kind of giving you guys a breakdown on assists and how they've changed and how they have impacted the game as a whole as time has gone on. So let's just get right into it. So in the beginning, there was one assist in the beginning. There were only A assists when the game first came out. So for those of you who joined the game, later on in season 3, each character only had their A assist. And, some of them were better than they are now. Some of them were worse than they are now. But Vegeta dictated the meta. Why did he dictate the meta? Because back then, Vegeta assist was essentially a beam assist. When you blocked it, you were forced to block the entire thing. And so there was no guard cancel reflect. There was no guard cancel super dash whenever you blocked this assist. And so you were forced to take essentially 60 frames of block stun whenever you block this assist back in season 1. It's absolutely insane. It's also worth noting that you could mash assist while in block stun back then, and so someone was trying to stagger a string and left it even the tiniest little gap, you'd be able to mash that Vegeta assist and it would give you free lockdown or even a full combo, because it's very easy to combo off of. Well, and so it was pretty insane back then. There are also some other strong assists. Yamcha A has not changed. The game has come out, it's very fast, has 40 frames of block stun, very strong assist for a lot of different ways, right? And also 16, right? 16 has been changed. This used to be a 30 plus block stun assist, but because of how relevant 16 was in the meta and what he was doing to characters, they decided to nerf it. And this is kind of a negative thing in some ways, but I'll get into that a bit later. Now, there were other assists in season 1 that were, you'd see these characters a lot, but their assists were not necessarily the greatest. So this is like where I would put Kid Buu. This is where I would put, Cell. This is where I would put Gotenks. Now, those characters in season 1 are extremely strong, but their assists only serve one function, or maybe aren't the greatest. And so when you pick those characters, you had to, accept the fact that get these assists and you're stuck with it. There is no picking a B assist or a C assist. You pick the character, you have to deal with the fact that they don't have, the best assist in the game, or the best assist in the meta at the time. And I think in a lot of ways, this is a good thing. This is a good thing that, making players choose, or they evaluate what values, they want the most out of a character, and they choose to go with that character and accept the drawbacks. And that's something that has kind of been diminished as time has gone on in Dragon Ball Fighters. But essentially in season 1, everything was kind of focused on lockdown. There were way less defensive mechanics, and so people were picking assists that were high block stun and enabled mix-ups, and that was the most important thing in the game. And this shifted when we talk about going into season 2. So season 2, a lot of you will know that snap was a very important mechanic in season 2. It kind of governed a lot of different things, and what assists you picked kind of went along with that. And so we saw the shift to solely lockdown base assist in most cases to beams. And why did we see this shift to beams? Well, we saw the shift to beams because season 2 was a much more neutral focused game because of what happened after you lost neutral. You lost neutral in season 2 and you snapped, and a lot of characters already had strong offense off of snap, and so they did not have to pick an assist that gave them super strong block string mix or anything like that. Their goal was to get to the snap and put you in a fucked up situation immediately off of the snap, and so they would mostly pick assists that helped them survive in neutral. And so that's why we saw the rise of beams. They also, their beams are fine on their own. They'll always be good, right? Beams will always be good because they are neutral based assists, right? They have decent block stun. They go full screen, which is a very important thing. However, beams do have dead zones, and they're also awkward to confirm off of, which is the main trade-off for beams. When you pick a beam and you hit someone raw in neutral, with beam, it can be an awkward confirm for a lot of characters unless you're very, very close or you're already, you know, in a position where you can fire off an early super dash or something like that. And so their mid-screen conversions are not the strongest, and that is the trade-off with picking beams. But this is essentially, you know, what the centralizing mechanic was in season 2. People were trying to get to snap as soon as possible, and so they picked, you know, the assist that aided that. It just so happened, you know, the characters that had beams, in the case of SSJ Goku and GT, very strong characters, very, very strong characters for the time. And a lot of that reason is because they had these beams that, you know, enabled quite a lot for a lot of characters. You know, GT assist in season 2, you could fuzzy off of. If someone air blocked this in neutral, right, they could just straight up get fuzzied, and it was pretty crazy back then. You know, some people even, you know, mind game themselves into picking Goku Black in season 2 because they could justify it because he had a beam, right? There were a lot of people that thought that way, and so, you know, we kind of saw a shift in the focus. Now, moving on from season 2. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to cover every single assist in the game, guys. I'm just talking about, you know, overall mentality with assists, because I don't want this video to be, you know, 30 minutes long. Okay, moving on. Season 3. Now, that was the game changer, right? We're actually gonna go to character select for this to kind of express what I'm talking about. So season 3 is when triple assist got added to the game. So characters no longer only had 1 assist to contend with. They had 3 assists that they can pick from. Now, to this day, still believe that, you know, this is both a good and a bad thing, that characters have more options for. And let me tell you why. So, some characters were completely held back by their assists. As in, they would not be picked because, you know, they don't have that good of an assist. Right. And to be fair, you know, this character was not super great. Was not super great at the time either, but he also only had a very, very lackluster assist. The rocks were able to be super dashed through and stuff like that, and so people were not picking Krillin. He did not have it. Krillin was regarded as one of the worst, if not the worst, in the game for a long time because he didn't have an assist. And so people were not picking him, and so season 3 kind of gave characters like this more options because, you know, Krillin could pick beam now, right? He could pick beam as his assist. And this was a game changer for him in a lot of ways. Some people were like, okay, now, you know, I want to pick beam, and now I can pick Krillin. Now, they also went ahead and buffed a lot of the assists that were lackluster. You know, rock assist is one of the strongest in the game at this point in terms of what it does for the game. It kind of acts as like a stop sign assist that I'll talk about. An anti-air assist, which in Dragon Ball FighterZ, there's so many options that are airborne that, you know, an assist like this is going to be very valuable. It also opened up, you know, some characters had decent assists, but they were given options to enable different styles of gameplay. So like Bardock, for example, you know, before season 3, Bardock had his time. Insane character. So pretty much saw him on every team, right? His assist was solid. Great assist for like super dash assist. It's just a very, you know, solid strike assist. What did they do? They added triple assist, and so you could pick Bardock B. And that, you guys know, the original Bardock B had much stronger tracking. It went way further, and it also has nearly 50 frames of block stun. Shout outs to Nokami, by the way. We miss you, dog. Hopefully, you know, we get an update from you soon. But, you know, Bardock B enabled mix-ups for pretty much every character that you picked on a team with him. And so, yeah, shit was pretty crazy. That being said, I do think that assist was fair. And I'll kind of talk about why in a little bit. So there are a lot of characters that, you know, just kind of got more options by them adding B assists and C assists. However, right, this is where we start experiencing power creep with characters, because before, you know, if you wanted to pick Kid Buu, who is a very strong character, you had to pick his A assist, and that was the drawback. That was kind of the drawback of adding him to a comp. He had very strong tools on point and everything, and A assist is very good for, you know, enabling mix-ups and whatnot, but it's not good for everything. And so you had to pick what you cherished most, what you valued most, and whether that is worth it to you or not would determine whether you pick the character. But now Kid Buu has 3 assists that are extremely strong. Gotenks has 3 assists that are extremely strong. For different purposes, right? And so if you're considering those characters that were very niche, that were picked for their specific assists and specific properties, you know, we start to see those fall out of favor, because now you can pick B assist or C assist on Kid Buu, and now you can pick B assist or C assist on Gotenks, right? And so the stronger characters also got more options and led to them being picked more. And this is what I mean by, like, it's not strictly positive that more assists were added, because, you know, that this aspect of power creep gets contributed to as you give stronger characters more options. The strongest characters already have the most options, giving them more options on top. That's why it can become a problem. On top of that, most of the time in this game, people still just pick, an overwhelming majority still pick 1 assist on the character. So there's an assist that is considered, you know, the strongest on the character, and you will see that probably 90 to 95% of the time. And so, like, for a lot of them, you know, it's essentially, I'm not saying it is exactly the same, but it's essentially the same as just having 1 assist, because not many people are really picking the other assists on them. A good example of this would be like Tien, for example, right? Like Tien, people are only picking A assist for the most part. The overwhelming majority are only picking A assist. There's some people that experiment with B assist. You know, C assists are naturally very niche altogether, but most of the time when you're picking Tien, picking A assist, right? And that is actually the case for most of the cast. You're only gonna pick 1 assist on the characters. Like Base Vegeta, you're gonna pick A assist, right? There are some characters that it's a little bit more nebulous, like I said, like Kid Buu and Gotenks. But for the most part, there's 1 assist that people are just gonna pick. Vegeta, people are picking people are still picking A assist on Gohan. There's some characters, you know, have very specific synergies that get enabled by some of their other assists. Like I know some people run B assist on Team Gohan, but for the most part, just 1 assist. And so it essentially is not exactly the same, but essentially have 1 assist per character that is regarded as the strongest. You're just gonna kind of pick those. And so for that reason, that power creep that we're talking about just kind of gets stacked upon. And real quick, I do want to talk about C assists, because C assists have been a very, very big point of contest for a lot of people when we talk about, you know, assists in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, why are C assists so controversial? C assists are controversial for a few different reasons. But mainly, I actually think it's funny. I think that C assists are talked about so much because they're assists that always naturally have that trade-off. So, for example, some of the strongest assists in the game are C assists. Majin Buu C assist is an extremely strong assist. You could also pick C beams, right? And you will notice in Japan, there are players that pick C assists. You'll see C assists way more often, especially beam C assist, because of the utility. You know, they have full screen coverage. They auto combo on hit, so you get a full conversion pretty much no matter what. And in a lot of cases, you don't sacrifice like block stun as well. Like a lot of C assists have very high block stun. Of course, the trade-off for them is the uptime. You have to wait way longer, and you get to call this way less often whenever you pick a C assist. And I think this is a fine trade-off to have. You know, these are assists that do a lot of great things, but the drawback is get to call it less. And I think that is something that's very, very healthy and everything. And so all of you guys that vilify the C assist pickers and stuff out there, I get it. It's annoying to play against triple C assists and all that, but they are still playing with trade-offs. And I think that is something that's good. Okay, guys, the last thing I want to talk about in terms of assists are, you know, buffs, nerfs, and something that I'd like to talk about a lot. It's called trade-offs. But we'll just get right into it. So let's start with nerfs, because everyone loves to talk about how things were nerfed in the past. So these 3 assists on the left were extremely meta assists, all whenever they were unnerfed. So GTA, you know, was the strongest assist in the game at one point. It is an anti-air assist, it had good block stun, it had good hit stun. It's very, very good assist. Now, for the reason that it's so strong is because it kind of counteracts the way that people move in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Dragon Ball FighterZ is a very airborne game, and so having an assist that is just like, okay, you can't be up there, it forces you to, you know, stay grounded. was naturally very strong. That being said, you know, there were dead zones on GT assists. I actually coined a term called the GT trap, where people would call GTA and they would assume that, you know, they're just covered. They're just covered. They would be able to do whatever they want, and they would eat like a 2M from their opponent because they were just mindlessly running in behind the assist. And so it definitely still had drawbacks, but it was very, very strong against the way that Dragon Ball FighterZ was played. To that same end, you know, Roshi B and UIA were fully invulnerable and gave full combos on hit. And in Roshi's case, also had high block stun to enable the mix-ups and whatnot. And so these assists were assists that people complained about a lot, but I actually think were pretty all right for the game. Because these were assists that forced people to slow down. Dragon Ball FighterZ sometimes devolves into scrambles in a big way. There are people that just mash their assists and mash buttons to, you know, hopefully get a hit in a scramble, and sometimes it works because it's just kind of the way the game works. But these assists were really like, okay, if you try to overextend into me, you try to steal a turn, you're trying to scramble, I can press these assists and it will cover me. And I think that's something that's very valuable. And to that end, I think these are assists that would be very good in today's meta. I think these would add much needed balance to the way that the game is played, because, you know, the game is more focused on pressing those EX moves and kind of forcing scrambles and whatnot. And so these assists would still be like, okay, no, you can't do that, or else you're gonna, you know, press into my assist and get full combo. It's a shame. It's a shame that these don't really do what they used to do, but they complain from the masses that's what will happen. Now, on the other side, you know, there is assists that were buffed. There are assists that were buffed, and it contributes to kind of how the power creep works in this game. So Yamcha used to be, you know, 19 frame startup, 40 frames, right? It's still exactly the same as it was on release. However, there are characters that got assist buffed to essentially be better versions of Yamcha assist, and this exists for a few different archetypes. But we'll start with Yamcha. So like, right, lab coat assist is essentially Yamcha assist. If you really look at the numbers and you look at everything, right, it is essentially just Yamcha assist, for lack of a better term, but it's on a better character. And so like before, where Yamcha had a very strong assist, and you would consider picking Yamcha for the assist, some people did pick Yamcha for the assist, you would not do that anymore, because there are characters that have assists very similar to Yamcha on better characters. There are way more assists in the game that are, you know, nearly 20 frame startup and, you know, high block stun on top of that. Even SHA Goku, the assist, you know, 20 frame startup, 40 frame block stun. We're talking about, you know, GTB. We're talking about, you know, Gotenks isn't quite 40 block stun, but it is very fast, and it is the Yamcha style assist, is multi-hit and everything. It's very similar, right? And so like there are a lot of characters that have similar assists to those assists that, you know, made people pick characters, and that contributes to the power creep. Why would you pick Yamcha if you could just pick a better character that has a similar assist? It doesn't make sense, right? And so that's a really big deal. And I would say this also exists for like pseudo beams, right? Before, if you wanted to pick Broly, if you want to pick base Vegeta, their trade-off to being very strong characters was that their assists were low block stun. They were still very good pseudo beams, especially in the case of Broly. It was slow moving, covers full screen. I just took it a little bit longer, of course. It also had visual obscurity on block, so you like couldn't see it whenever you blocked the assist. So you could still get like pretty messed up mix-ups on it if you were finessing, but it only had 21 frames of block stun, and so you had to kind of contend with that. But they have buffed these to be 30 frame block stun, and so like there's no real trade-off to picking them anymore. It's like, wow, these assists are just insane with no trade-off. And so now I get an extremely strong character with an extremely strong assist, and so why would I pick one of the lower tier characters when that is the case, right? It removes an avenue or a justification for picking, you know, a character that had a niche assist that was maybe very strong, because now these assists are just insane, and so like there's no reason for me to consider that anymore. And so that's what I mean by sometimes them buffing assists and adding more assist options can be a negative thing in that way, especially if you're talking about, you know, wanting to see more characters. I know a lot of people value just seeing more characters on the screen, and I think this takes away from it, and that's something that I think people should think about. In the last section, I want to talk about assists that just kind of do everything, right? And so right now, the meta is dominated by some assists that just kind of do everything, and the biggest culprit, of course, gotta talk about Vegito. Vegito assist does everything. It's block stun, it's hit stun, it's full screen coverage, it's defense, it's extremely fast, it's everything. Everything that you would want in assist, Vegito assist is. Very easy to combo off of all that stuff. It's everything. And you might think, oh, you know, it's Ki Blast assist, so, you know, you sacrifice true block stun, but that is not nearly as big of a deal anymore. It used to be that Ki Blast assists were like niche and less reliable, but nowadays, you know, Vegito assist is so extremely fast, and on top of that, you can't Happy Birthday it, essentially. You like can't ever hit this assist, which I think is another big deal when we talk about assists, that Happy Birthdays are just not possible in a lot of cases. But it's so incredibly fast that a lot of the time, if you try to reflect it on reaction, you'll end up blocking the assist and then whiffing reflect afterwards, and then you 2M'd and die. That actually happens quite often. And so like that trade-off of it being Ki Blast block stun doesn't actually matter very much. Forcing your opponent to making your opponent think that they can move when they can't, when you're still in advantage, can actually be very positive. And so, you know, Piccolo assist is also an assist that I think pretty much does everything. Neutral, it comes out very fast. It creates that block string dynamic. It goes full screen, it tracks it. It's like insane, easy to combo off of. Kind of awkward for some characters to combo off of sometimes, but honestly doesn't end up being that big of a deal in the long run, right? And then, you know, hit assist, A assist has been insane the whole time. It's invul, it's a lariat, it's block stun, it's hit stun, it's all that. But these characters like Piccolo and Hit are less common, so you don't have to play against them as much, so it leads to people complaining about them much less. But you know, I don't want to contribute to Hook's downplay out here, you know. But anyway, right? But then we want to talk about a character that is picked primarily for their assist, right? 17 is a barrier that has a 30+ frame block stun blast that is also a full combo on hit, and so like this assist kind of does everything as well. And so the trade-off used to be that, you know, this assist doesn't go full screen, but the game has shifted to being more focused on the mid-range, and so that doesn't end up being nearly as big of a trade-off anymore. And a barrier assists are very strong, both on offense and on defense. So like even 18, you know, barrier assist, it can be used to set up offense. You could do something that seems unsafe, bait your opponent into trying to punish, and then you get the punish instead. 17 is not an overwhelmingly strong character without this assist, right? I even with the assist, I don't think he's overwhelmingly strong, but he definitely has a very, very important place in the meta because of that stop sign effect. You can't scramble with this assist essentially. And you know, anything that enables winning scrambles is going to be a strong assist for the most part in today's meta. And you will notice a lot of the strongest assists in the game are very, very strong in scrambles. All these that I picked are very strong. You know, Gogeta 4s goes through assists. Got the normal DP assists. We got barriers, right? And like, so I think this is part of the reason that the meta has been focused on on certain teams and you know, more of the top tier characters, is because they have assists that kind of enable you to auto win scrambles, but they do that by kind of doing everything at once. There's no more trade-offs. Like, you don't have a trade-off whenever you pick these assists, and so like, why would you not pick these characters, right? Think about that. Why would you, if there's no trade-off to picking these assists, you're not sacrificing strength on character, you're not sacrificing anything assist wise, you just pick them, right? There's no reason for me to pick a low tier anymore. I say that as a Frieza player, be like that. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think about assists in Dragon Ball FighterZ. I tried to make this as short as possible, but there's just a lot of stuff to cover, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, let me know what you want the next topic for training mode talks to be. See you guys in the next video. You guys take it easy. Later.